Freehold Vesper, humans turn alien slave auction into invasion. The drunk was still yelling when the world ended. Sergeant Elena Kovac had one hand on the precinct door, the other rubbing the bridge of her nose, trying to decide whether the man stumbling down the street warranted another hour of paperwork or just a stern warning and a cab voucher. It was 2:47 a.m. Her shift had technically ended at midnight. The harbor fog rolled thick through the streets of Port Calais, turning streetlights into fuzzy halos, and somewhere a ship's horn moaned its lonely call. Then the sky turned blue. Not dawn blue, not lightning blue. A searing, electric cobalt that swallowed every shadow, every streetlight, every star. The drunk stopped mid-curse. Elena's hand froze on the door. For 3 heartbeats, the entire city held its breath in that impossible light. Then nothing. Blackness total, the kind of dark that pressed against your eyeballs. Elena's training kicked in before conscious thought. She dropped into a crouch, one hand finding her sidearm, the other reaching for her radio. "Dispatch, this is Kovac. We have a static, pure white noise." She tried again. Nothing. Power flickered back in stuttering waves. The precinct's emergency lights snapped on, bathing everything in sickly yellow. Car alarms shrieked up and down the block. The drunk had fallen to his knees, staring upward with his mouth hanging open. Elena followed his gaze. Wrong, everything was wrong. The sky, when her eyes adjusted, wasn't black anymore. It glowed with a soft, sourceless luminescence like perpetual twilight. And the stars. Elena had grown up under these stars, had learned their names from her grandfather on camping trips in the mountains. She knew Orion. She knew the Big Dipper. These weren't them. The constellations were alien geometries, unfamiliar patterns that made her brain itch trying to parse them. And if she stared long enough, squinted just right, she could see faint lines. Hexagonal, grid-like, as if the sky itself were a screen. Her phone buzzed. No signal. GPS showed a spinning wheel, searching for satellites that apparently no longer existed. She tried the precinct landline. Dead. "Sergeant," Officer Reyes stumbled out of the building, his face pale. "What the hell just happened? I can't reach anyone. Dispatch is down, cell towers are down, even the damn internet." "Get everyone inside," Elena said, her voice steady despite the ice forming in her gut. "Now, full roster, I don't care if they're off duty." She looked east toward where the harbor should be. The fog had cleared, or maybe it had never been fog at all. Beyond the city limits, maybe 2 miles out, she could see a wall, translucent, shimmering, curving upward like the inside of a snow globe. They weren't in Port Calais anymore. They weren't anywhere on Earth. The drones arrived at dawn, or what passed for dawn under the false sky. Elena had spent the intervening hours coordinating with what remained of the city's command structure. The mayor was in shock, useless. The fire chief was practical, already organizing search and rescue for the dozens of car crashes that had occurred during the blackout. The hospital was overwhelmed but functional. And then the drones came. Sleek things the size of compact cars, hovering on no visible means of propulsion. They positioned themselves at major intersections in parks above the harbor. When they spoke, their voices were flat, synthesized, running through multiple languages in sequence: English, Spanish, Mandarin, Arabic, others Elena didn't recognize. "Attention provisioned workforce units." Elena stood in the middle of 4th Street, surrounded by a growing crowd of civilians. Someone laughed, a high, hysterical sound quickly choked off. "You have been acquired for auction as exotic labor. Surrender all weapons and await processing. Compliance will be rewarded with sustenance and shelter. Resistance will be corrected." The holographic display that accompanied the message showed anatomical diagrams of humans, labeled with terms like muscle density index and cognitive adaptability rating, and estimated operational lifespan. "This is a joke," someone muttered. "This has to be a joke." But Elena was watching the drone, studying it. The way it moved, the faint hum of its systems, the small port on its underside that might be a weapon or might be a scanner. This was no joke. This was an occupation. By noon, Elena had assembled what she privately thought of as the Council of the Damned. They met in the basement of City Hall, concrete walls, no windows, and a door that could be barricaded if necessary. Around the table sat the fractured leadership of a city that had been stolen whole. Captain Morris from the police department, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen from the Naval Reserve Station that had, by sheer luck, been within city limits when the abduction occurred, Dr. Maya Singh, Chief of Emergency Medicine at Mercy General, Luis Ortega, the city's infrastructure director, who looked like he hadn't slept in a week even before the world ended. And to Elena's carefully concealed surprise, a man who went by Rook, real name unknown, leader of the Southside Crew, the largest organized crime syndicate in Port Calais. Why is he here? Morris demanded, jabbing a finger at Rook. Because he controls a third of the city's street-level logistics, Elena said flatly. And because right now, I don't give a damn about your jurisdictional pissing contests. Rook smiled, showing gold teeth. Sergeant Kovac gets it, out there. He jerked his thumb toward the ceiling. They don't care if you're a cop or a corner boy. We're all just inventory. Inventory, Dr. Singh repeated, her voice hollow. They called us workforce units. They called us exotic labor, Chen corrected. Which means they've done this before, to other species, other worlds. Silence fell like a hammer. Louis broke it, his voice shaking. I've been checking the infrastructure. Water treatment is still running barely. Power grid is functional, but there are new connections. Alien tech spliced into our systems. They're feeding us power, air, probably monitoring everything. Can you cut them off? Morris asked. Cut them off and we might lose life support entirely, Louis said. But I can map the connections. Figure out what's ours and what's theirs. Elena leaned forward. Do it. I want a full infrastructure audit within 24 hours. Water, power, communications, medical supplies, food stores, everything. She turned to Chen. How many trained personnel do we have? Military, police, anyone with combat experience. Maybe 300, Chen said. Naval reservists, National Guard, police, some vets. Not enough to fight a war. We're not fighting a war, Elena said. Not yet, we're preparing for a siege. She pulled out a hand-drawn map of the city. GPS was useless, but memory and old paper maps still worked. We secure the armories first. Police headquarters, the naval station, the National Guard depot. We distribute weapons to vetted personnel only. We establish a chain of command and communication using analog methods, radios, runners, signal flags if we have to. And then what? Rook asked. We hole up and wait for the aliens to get bored. No, Elena said. She met his eyes, then each person around the table in turn. We gather intelligence. We learn everything we can about them, their technology, their weaknesses, their objectives. And then we make them regret ever hearing the name human. Dr. Singh's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. They're going to auction us, like slaves. Yes, Elena said, they are. Then we're not defeated, Elena interrupted, her voice hard as iron. We're underestimated, there's a difference. The second drone broadcast came at sunset. Elena was at the naval station, overseeing the inventory of weapons and ammunition, when every drone in the city spoke in unison. Auction processing will commence in 72 hours. All workforce units will be cataloged by skill category and physical capability. Families will be kept intact where economically viable. Compliance remains mandatory. Then, almost as an afterthought, your cooperation ensures minimal corrective measures. Elena stood in the armory, surrounded by crates of rifles and ammunition, and looked up at the false sky. Somewhere beyond that dome, beyond those wrong stars, There were beings who thought they could buy and sell humanity like livestock. They were about to learn a very expensive lesson. She pulled out her radio. "All units, this is Kovac. Secure your positions, lock down the armories, and someone find me Jin Park. I need our best hacker and I need them yesterday." Because if the aliens wanted to auction them off, they'd need a system. Computers, logistics, teleportation technology. And every system had vulnerabilities. Every door had a lock. And Elena Kovac had spent 15 years learning how to pick them. Broker Sally's third eye blinked in satisfaction as the biometric data scrolled across the holographic display. The human acquisition Lot 847, Port Calais, was exceeding projections. Remarkable muscle density for a pre-FTL species, Sally's assistant chittered, mandibles clicking with excitement. And the cognitive adaptability indices are in the 93rd percentile. Sally rippled agreement, chromatophore shifting to pleased violet. The initial investment will be recouped within 2 auction cycles, possibly 1 if we market them correctly. He gestured with a manipulator appendage, and the display zoomed in on demographic breakdowns. Note the diversity, multiple genetic lineages, varied skill sets, natural linguistic flexibility. They'll slot beautifully into niche markets. There is one concern, the assistant ventured. The preliminary scans show significant social fragmentation, multiple competing governance structures, religious divisions, economic stratification. The integration specialists worry about cohesion during processing. "Irrelevant," Sally said, waving dismissively. "Fragmentation makes them easier to manage. Divide along existing fault lines, offer preferential treatment to compliant subgroups, and watch them police themselves." He'd done this 17 times before with newly acquired species. Humans would be no different. On the display, a 3-dimensional map of the dome rotated slowly. Sally had personally overseen the environmental calibration oxygen mix, adjusted for optimal performance without inducing euphoria. Gravity set to 1.02, standard to keep them slightly off balance. Temperature maintained at the lower end of their comfort range to discourage aggression. "Security protocols?" he asked. "Standard pacification suite," the assistant replied. "Sonic disruptors, M-nets, sedative aerosols. The drones are equipped with non-lethal suppression only. We can't damage the merchandise." "Excellent." Sally's skin flickered with anticipation. "Initiate final processing countdown. 72 hours to auction." This would be his most profitable quarter yet. Jin Park's fingers flew across the keyboard, eyes bloodshot from 36 hours of continuous work. "Talk to me," Elena said, leaning over the makeshift workstation Jin had set up in the basement of the public library, one of the few buildings with backup generators and hardline connections to the city's data infrastructure. "They're not even trying to hide it," Jin said, voice hoarse with exhaustion and something that might have been awe. "The drones are broadcasting on open frequencies. Their encryption is. It's sophisticated, but it's designed to keep out other aliens, not humans. They literally didn't account for us trying to hack them." "Can you break it?" "Already did." Jin pulled up a screen showing streams of data in alien script, which was slowly being translated by a machine learning algorithm Jin had cobbled together from linguistics software and pattern recognition. This is their logistics network. Auction schedules, lot assignments, teleportation beacon codes. Elena's pulse quickened. Beacon codes. "Every human they plan to auction gets tagged with a destination code," Jin explained. "It tells the teleportation system where to send them mining colonies, agricultural stations, industrial foundries. The system is automated. Tag the person, activate the beacon, and whoosh, instant interstellar shipping." "Can you change the codes?" Jin's eyes widened. "You want to? Oh. If they're going to ship us off-world," Elena said quietly, "we're going to choose where we land." The council met again that night. The group had expanded, now including Jin, a half-dozen squad leaders, and representatives from the city's various ethnic and professional communities. Elena stood at the head of the table, exhaustion pulling at her bones, but her voice remained steady. "We have 72 hours before they start processing us for auction. Here's what we know." She nodded to Lewis, who pulled up a schematic of the city's infrastructure on a salvaged projector. "The aliens have tapped into our power grid, water treatment, and communications," Lewis said. "But they're lazy or arrogant. They're using our existing systems as a backbone, just adding their own control nodes, which means we can still access everything. We can ration, we can reroute, and if necessary, we can shut it all down." "Shutting down power means no hospitals," Dr. Singh interjected. "Which is why we don't shut it down unless we have no choice," Elena said. "But we need to control it. Lewis, I want redundancies built into every critical system. Hidden switches, manual overrides, booby traps if they try to seize direct control." Lewis nodded grimly. Elena turned to Chen. "Weapons distribution." "Complete," Chen reported. "Every squad leader has been issued sidearms and rifles. We've hidden caches throughout the city. If they try to confiscate, we'll still be armed. I've also organized quick reaction teams at each major intersection." "Good, Rook." The crime boss leaned back in his chair, looking almost relaxed. "My people have secured the warehouses and distribution centers. Food, medicine, fuel, we've got enough for maybe 3 months if we ration hard. Also," he smiled, "we found some interesting things in the industrial district. Chemicals, fertilizer, the kind of stuff that can be repurposed." "Explosives," Elena said. "I prefer improvised deterrents," Rook said, "but yeah." Dr. Singh looked ill. "We're really doing this. We're preparing to fight." "We're preparing to survive," Elena corrected. "Fighting is just one tool." She turned to Jin. "Show them." Jin pulled up the alien logistics network, now partially translated. "This is their auction system. They're planning to divide us into skill-based lots, medical personnel, engineers, manual laborers, even creative specialists, whatever that means. Each lot gets assigned a destination based on buyer requests." "They're sorting us like spare parts," someone muttered. "Yes," Jin said. "But here's the thing, the teleportation system is automated. It reads the beacon code and sends you to the corresponding coordinates, and I can change those codes." "Silence." "You're saying," Chen said slowly, "we could hijack their own teleportation system." "Not just hijack," Elena said. "Weaponize. They want to ship us off-world. Fine, we'll go, but we'll choose the destination, and we won't be going as slaves." She pulled up a 3-dimensional map Jin had reconstructed from intercepted data, a massive toroidal structure, bristling with docking ports and habitat modules. "This is the Vesper Ring," Elena said. "The station we're currently inside. It's a trade hub, multiple species, massive economic throughput, and from what we can tell, minimal military presence. They're merchants, not soldiers." "You want to invade a space station," Morris said flatly. "I want to seize leverage," Elena corrected. "They think we're primitive, fragmented, easy to control. We're going to prove them wrong." She looked around the table, meeting each pair of eyes. "I won't lie to you. This is dangerous. People will die. But if we do nothing, we become property. Our children become property. And I don't know about you, but I didn't survive 15 years of peacekeeping in failed states just to roll over for some alien slavers." Rook laughed, a sharp, genuine sound. "Damn, Sergeant, you've got a hell of a sales pitch." "I'm not selling," Elena said. "I'm stating facts. We have 3 days to prepare. After that, we either fight or we kneel. I know which one I'm choosing." Dr. Singh's hand was still shaking, but her voice was firm. "What do you need from the hospital?" "Medical teams willing to go off-world," Elena said. "And any alien technology you can reverse engineer. sedatives, anesthetics, anything we can weaponize. Singh nodded slowly. I'll start assembling volunteers. Lewis, I need you to map every alien connection point in the city. If we're going to leave, I want to make sure we can come back, or at least control the door. On it. Chen, start selecting strike teams. Small, fast, multi-skilled. People who can think on their feet. Understood. Elena took a breath. One more thing. The aliens issued an ultimatum: surrender all weapons before processing begins. We're going to ignore it, completely. And when they threaten to cut off our air or food, we're going to call their bluff. What if it's not a bluff? Someone asked. Then we make them regret it, Elena said simply. They're merchants. They think in terms of profit and loss. We're going to teach them that enslaving humans is the worst investment they'll ever make. The alien ultimatum came at dawn. Every drone in the city broadcast simultaneously, their synthesized voices echoing off buildings. Final warning. Surrender all weapons within 12 hours or face corrective measures. Compliance is mandatory. Elena stood on the roof of police headquarters, watching the drones hover like mechanical vultures. Around her, the city was waking up not to panic but to purpose. People moving with direction. Barricades being reinforced, supply lines being organized. Her radio crackled. Kovac, this is Jin, I've got something. Go ahead. I've been analyzing their teleportation logs. They're not just moving humans, they're moving cargo, supplies, maintenance crews. And I found something interesting. There's a central transit hub on the Vesper Ring. If we could take it, we'd control their entire logistics network, Elena finished. Exactly. Elena smiled, a cold, predatory expression. Jin, I need you to identify 3 targets on that station. First, the transit hub. Second, whatever passes for their data archives or administrative center. Third, anything that looks like a critical system: power, life support, gravity control. You're really going to do this? We're really going to do this, Elena corrected. Start selecting your team. You're going with the first wave. What? You're the only one who can hack their systems in real time, Elena said. I need you on that station. A long pause, then, okay. Good, and Jin, start spreading the word. Anyone who volunteers for the off-world teams needs to understand we might not make it back. But if we do, we're coming back free. She looked up at the false sky, at the dome that caged them, at the wrong stars that marked their prison. No one goes home, she murmured, unless we own the door. The auction chamber was a cathedral of commerce. Director Kethar stood in the observation gallery, his sensory stalks extended to take in the full spectacle. Below, holographic displays rotated through the human lots, 3-dimensional anatomical models, skill assessments, psychological profiles. Buyers from a dozen species filled the tiered seating, their translators creating a low susurrus of multilingual negotiation. Lot 847 Alpha, medical specialists, the auctioneer announced. 47 units including surgical expertise and emergency trauma response. Opening bid, 70,000 credits. The bidding was brisk. Kethar watched with satisfaction as the price climbed. Humans were proving even more valuable than projected. Their adaptability and diverse skill sets made them ideal for niche markets that typically struggled to find suitable labor. Lot 847 Beta, engineering and technical specialists, 62 units. Kethar's communicator chimed. He activated it with a thought, and his assistant's voice buzzed in his auditory canal. Director, we have a minor anomaly. Several human lots are not appearing at their designated work sites after teleportation. Define several, Kethar said, not particularly concerned. Teleportation glitches were rare but not unheard of. Approximately 30 units across 3 separate lots. Kethar's stalk stiffened slightly. Run a diagnostic on the teleportation network, likely a calibration error. Already in progress, Director. Cathar returned his attention to the auction. 30 units out of nearly 8,000 was statistically insignificant, probably a logging error. Still, something about it nagged at him. Luis Ortega materialized in a maintenance corridor that smelled of ozone, and something acrid he couldn't identify. For a moment he couldn't move. The teleportation had left him disoriented, his inner ear screaming that up and down had switched places. Then training kicked in. He forced himself to breathe, to focus, to assess. The corridor was narrow, lined with conduits and access panels. Alien script glowed on status displays, and most importantly, he was alone. No guards, no drones, no welcoming committee of slavers. Jin's hack had worked. Lewis activated his radio, a short-range encrypted unit that should be beneath the alien's notice. Power team, sound off. 5 voices responded, scattered across different sections of the station, all accounted for. Objectives are unchanged, Lewis said, pulling out the hand-drawn map Jin had created from stolen data. Find the power distribution nodes, plant the overrides, and wait for the signal. Radio silence unless emergency. Move. He started down the corridor, every sense hyper-alert. The station's gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's, maybe 0.9 g, which made movement easier but also disorienting. The air tasted metallic. He rounded a corner and froze. An alien stood 20 feet away, some kind of maintenance worker, judging by the tool harness. It had 4 arms and a face that was mostly mouth. They stared at each other for a frozen moment. Then Lewis moved. 3 steps, closing the distance before the alien could react. His hand found the improvised weapon, a heavy wrench from the city's machine shops, and he swung hard. The alien went down with a gurgling sound. Lewis's hand shook as he zip-tied the creature's limbs and gagged it with duct tape. Not dead, just unconscious. He'd never assaulted anyone before. He was a civil engineer, for God's sake. He designed water treatment plants. But his daughter was back in that dome, and these bastards had tried to sell her. Lewis picked up his wrench and kept moving. Dr. Maya Singh had expected many things when she volunteered for the off-world team. She had not expected to materialize in what was clearly a medical supply depot. Racks of alien pharmaceuticals stretched in every direction, labeled in script she couldn't read. But the symbols, the universal medical iconography of syringes, pills, warning labels, those she understood. Medical team report, she whispered into her radio. 4 responses. Her team was intact and, according to their descriptions, scattered across different sections of the station's medical infrastructure. Begin collection, Maya ordered. Anything that looks like a sedative, anesthetic, or paralytic. We're looking for crowd control, not lethality. Move fast. She started pulling containers from the shelves, scanning labels with the portable translator Jin had cobbled together. The device was crude, but it could identify basic chemical compounds. Benzodiazepine analog, opioid receptor agonist, GABA modulator. Maya's hands moved with practiced efficiency, sorting and packing. In another life, one that had ended 72 hours ago, she would have been horrified at the idea of weaponizing medical supplies. But that was before aliens had tried to auction off her nursing staff like furniture. She found what she was looking for in a climate-controlled vault, canisters of aerosolized anesthetic designed for rapid sedation of large groups. The warning labels were extensive. Perfect. Jin Park crouched in a data access node, fingers flying across an alien interface that looked like a cross between a keyboard and a musical instrument. Come on, Jin muttered, watching lines of code scroll past. The translator software was working overtime, converting alien programming languages into something approximating human logic. There, the station's transit network, every teleportation beacon, every cargo route, every passenger manifest, and more importantly, the security protocols that governed access. Jin's team, 3 other hackers and IT specialists worked in parallel, each tackling a different system: power grid monitoring, environmental controls, communication networks. "I'm in the gravity control system," one of them whispered over the radio. "Holy shit, I'm in the gravity control system." "Don't touch anything yet," Jin hissed. "We wait for the signal." But Jin was already working on the next phase. If they were going to hold this station hostage, they needed leverage, real leverage. Jin pulled up the station's economic databases, trade manifests, ownership records, financial transactions. And there it was, the Vesper Ring's true vulnerability. This wasn't a military installation. It was a marketplace, and markets ran on confidence. Jin started copying everything, every shady deal, every illegal transaction, every piece of leverage that could be used to turn the station's inhabitants against each other. Knowledge was power, and Jin was about to become very powerful. Elena listened to the reports coming in over encrypted channels, her heart pounding with a mixture of pride and terror. Power team in position. Medical team, supplies acquired. Gravity team, access achieved. Data team, infiltration successful. 30 humans, scattered across a hostile alien space station, executing a plan that was equal parts brilliant and insane. "All teams, this is Kovac," she said quietly. "You've done the hard part. Now we wait. Maintain radio silence unless compromised. And remember, we're not trying to destroy the station. We're trying to own it." She switched channels. Jin status. "I've got access to their economic databases," Jin replied, voice tight with excitement. "Elena, this place is a house of cards. Half the transactions are illegal by their own laws. If we threaten to release this data, we can turn their own people against each other," Elena finished. "Good work, sit tight." She looked around the command center they'd established in the basement of City Hall. Maps covered every wall. Radio operators monitored multiple channels. And in the corner, Rook's people were assembling the improvised explosives that would serve as their final insurance policy. "Sergeant," Chen approached, her face grim. "The aliens just issued another ultimatum. They're threatening to reduce our air supply by 20% if we don't surrender weapons in the next hour." Elena smiled, a cold, dangerous expression. "Let them." "Elena." "They're bluffing," Elena said. "They can't sell us if we're dead or brain damaged from hypoxia, and even if they're not bluffing, we can last on reduced air for days. They need to learn that threats don't work on us." She activated the city-wide PA system, one of the few communication networks they'd managed to keep independent of alien control. "Attention, Port Calais, this is Sergeant Kovac. The aliens have threatened to reduce our air supply. Let them. We've survived worse. We'll survive this. And when we're done, they're going to regret ever hearing the word human. Stay strong, stay together, and trust the plan." She cut the connection and turned to Chen. "How long until our people on the station are ready to move?" "They're in position now, waiting for your signal." Elena looked at the clock. The auction was still ongoing, thousands of humans being sold off to the highest bidder, unaware that their lots included trained saboteurs. "Not yet," Elena said. "Let them think they've won. Let them get comfortable. And then we show them what humans do when you back us into a corner." Broker Salii was celebrating. The auction had exceeded all projections. Lot 847 had generated over 40 million credits in revenue, with bidding still ongoing for the final categories. His commission alone would fund his retirement. He was composing a message to his investors when the first alarm sounded. Director Kethar to Broker Salii, we have a situation. Salii's chromatophores flickered with annoyance. Can it wait? I'm in the middle of. No, Kethar interrupted, his voice sharp. It cannot. We have reports of humans appearing in unauthorized locations across the station. Maintenance corridors, supply depots, data centers. Salii's third eye blinked in confusion. That's impossible. The teleportation system is automated. There must be a logging error. That's what I thought, Kethar said, until one of my security teams found an unconscious maintenance worker in a power distribution node, with human tool marks on the access panels. Salii's skin went pale gray. How many? We don't know, dozens possibly, and Salii, they're not acting like confused slaves. They're moving with purpose, like they planned this. For the first time in his long career, Broker Salii felt something he'd never associated with a newly acquired species. Fear. The lights went out across Sector 7 of the Vesper Ring at exactly 300 station time. Not all at once, that would have been too obvious. Instead, they flickered and died in a cascading wave, each section going dark just as emergency protocols kicked in for the previous one. The effect was disorienting, chaotic, and entirely intentional. Luis Ortega stood in the power distribution node, hands steady on the alien controls despite the adrenaline screaming through his veins. Power team, report. Node 7 Alpha, offline. Node 7 Beta, offline. Node 7 Gamma, offline. Good, Luis said. Now we wait for them to send repair crews, and then we take Node 8. The plan was simple in concept, nightmarish in execution. Create a rolling blackout that would force the station's security forces to spread thin, chasing problems across multiple sectors while human teams leapfrogged ahead, seizing control of more and more of the power grid. Luis's radio crackled. Power team, this is Kovac, status. We control approximately 30% of Sector 7's power distribution, Luis reported. And I've identified the main trunk lines feeding the auction complex. On your word, I can cut them completely. Not yet, Elena's voice came back. We need them scared, not desperate. Keep the pressure steady. Understood. Luis looked at his team. A city electrician, 2 power plant workers, and a woman who'd been an electrical engineer before the abduction. They were exhausted, terrified, and absolutely determined. Next node is 2 corridors north, Luis said. We move in 5 minutes. Stay tight, stay quiet, and remember, we're not trying to kill anyone. We're trying to make them realize they can't control us. The gravity failed in Sector 9 at 3:15. Director Kethar was reviewing security reports when his feet left the floor. For a disorienting moment he floated, his sensory stalks flailing for purchase. Around him, other station personnel tumbled through the air, some panicking, others reaching for handholds with practiced ease. What in the void? Kethar activated his communicator. Engineering report. Director, we're showing a cascade failure in the Sector 9 gravity generators. Cause unknown. We're attempting to. The connection cut off. Kethar pulled himself to a control terminal. His movements clumsy in zero-G. The security feeds showed chaos across multiple sectors. Not just 9, but 7, 11, and 14. Lights flickering. Gravity fluctuating. And in the corridors, small groups of humans moving with disturbing coordination. This is Director Kethar to all security forces. We have a coordinated insurgency. Repeat, coordinated insurgency. Lethal force is authorized. Belay that order, a new voice cut in. Counselor Vresh, one of the Ring's senior administrators. Director, need I remind you that those humans represent 40 million credits in merchandise. Lethal force will come out of your budget. Counselor, with respect, we are losing control of critical infrastructure. Then regain it without damaging the product, Vresh snapped. Use non-lethal suppression. Gas them, net them, I don't care. but they need to be intact for delivery to their buyers. Kethar's stalks quivered with frustration. Understood, counselor. He switched channels. All units, non-lethal suppression only. Deploy M-nets, sonic disruptors, and sedative aerosols. Contain the humans and prepare for reprocessing. But even as he gave the orders, Kethar felt a cold certainty settling in his gut. The humans had planned this. All of it. Dr. Maya Singh's team struck the auction complex at 3:30. They came through the ventilation system, a route Jin had identified from stolen schematics, carrying improvised gas masks and canisters of weaponized anesthetic. The auction was still ongoing, buyers and sellers packed into the tiered galleries, oblivious to the chaos spreading through the station. Maya positioned her team at the main air intake vents. On my mark, she whispered. 3, 2, 1, mark. They cracked the canisters simultaneously. The effect was almost instantaneous. The aerosolized anesthetic designed by aliens for aliens flooded through the ventilation system. In the galleries below, buyers began to slump in their seats. Auctioneers stumbled mid-pitch. Security drones wobbled and crashed. Maya watched through a grate, her heart pounding. She'd taken an oath to do no harm. But these beings had tried to sell her people. Medical team, move, she ordered. Secure the auction control systems, and someone find me broker Sally. I want him alive and conscious. Jin's fingers flew across the alien interface, sweat dripping despite the station's cool air. Come on, Jin muttered. The gravity control system was more complex than anticipated, multiple redundancies, fail-safes, and security protocols. But Jin had been hacking since age 12, and the fundamental logic of computer systems was universal. There. Jin triggered the override, and across Sector 14, gravity lurched from 1 standard to 0.3. Not 0G, that would be too dangerous, but enough to throw off anyone trying to move quickly. Gravity team, this is Jin. Sector 14 is yours. Security forces will be moving like they're drunk. Take advantage. Copy that, came the response. Moving now. Jin pulled up the station-wide security feed, or what remained of it. Half the cameras were offline, either from power failures or because Jin's team had physically disabled them. But what Jin could see was beautiful chaos. Humans everywhere, moving in small teams, hitting targets with precision, then vanishing before security could respond. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but they were faster, more adaptable, and they understood something the aliens didn't. Infrastructure was power. And humans had spent 10,000 years learning how to break and rebuild infrastructure. Elena listened to the reports flooding in, her command center now a hive of controlled chaos. Power team has control of sectors 7, 9, and 11. Gravity team reports successful seizure of node 14 alpha. Medical team has secured the auction complex. Broker Sally is in custody. Data team has downloaded approximately 70% of the station's economic records. Elena allowed herself a tight smile. All teams, this is Kovac. Phase 2 is complete. Begin Phase 3, consolidation. Power team, I want you to fortify your positions. We're going to hold those nodes. Gravity team, same. Medical team, start moving the sedated aliens to secure locations. We're taking hostages. Hostages? Dr. Singh's voice was strained. Elena, we're not. We're not torturing them, Elena said firmly. We're not executing them, but we need leverage, and unconscious auction-goers are perfect. Treat them well, keep them sedated, and make sure they're comfortable, but they're not leaving until we have a deal. She switched to the citywide channel. Port Calais, this is Kovac. Our people on the station have successfully seized key infrastructure. We now control significant portions of the Vesper Ring's power, gravity, and transit systems. The aliens are in chaos, and we're just getting started. A cheer went up from the command center. Elena let them celebrate for exactly 10 seconds. Then, back to work. Chen, I need you to prepare a second wave, more people, more supplies. We're going to reinforce our positions on the station. Rook, start organizing supply lines. And someone get me a direct line to Director Kethar. It's time we had a conversation. Director Kethar's communicator chimed with an incoming transmission on an emergency override channel. He activated it warily. This is Director Kethar. Director, this is Sergeant Elena Kovac, Port Kala's Emergency Council. The voice was female, calm, and utterly devoid of fear. I believe we need to discuss terms. Terms? Kethar's stalk stiffened. You are stolen property engaged in criminal destruction of. We are free citizens defending ourselves against slavers, Elena interrupted. And right now, we control approximately 40% of your station's power grid, 20% of your gravity systems, and we're holding 300 of your auction attendees as, let's call them guests. Kethar pulled up the security feeds. The human wasn't lying. What do you want? He asked, hating how weak his voice sounded. I want you to understand something, Elena said. You made a mistake. You thought we were primitive, fragmented, easy to control. You were wrong, and now you're going to pay for that mistake. If you harm those hostages. We're not going to harm anyone, Elena said. Unless you force us to. Here's what's going to happen, Director. You're going to convene your Ring Council. You're going to explain to them that the humans are no longer merchandise, we're a threat. And then you're going to negotiate with us in good faith, because if you don't. She paused, and Kethar heard the sound of typing in the background. If you don't, Elena continued, we're going to start releasing the data we've stolen from your archives. Every illegal transaction, every bribe, every shady deal that keeps this station running. We'll broadcast it across every communication channel we can reach, and then we'll see how long your precious marketplace survives. Kethar's blood ran cold. You're bluffing. Am I? Let me send you a sample. A data packet arrived. Kethar opened it with trembling manipulators. It was a transaction record, a highly illegal arms deal between two council members, complete with financial trails and encrypted communications. That's one file out of thousands, Elena said. Test me, Director, please. I'd love to watch your economy burn. Kethar closed his eyes, all three of them. What are your terms? I'll send them shortly, Elena said. In the meantime, pull your security forces back from the sectors we control. Any attempt to retake them by force, and we start venting atmosphere from the luxury habitats. I understand there's a particularly expensive garden cylinder in Sector 12. It would be a shame if something happened to it. The connection cut off. Kethar floated in the zero-G of his office, staring at the security feeds showing his station, his beautiful, profitable station, being torn apart by a species that was supposed to be easy prey. He activated his communicator. Get me the Ring Council, emergency session, now. Elena set down the radio and allowed herself a moment of exhaustion. That was one hell of a bluff, Rook said from across the command center. It wasn't a bluff, Elena said quietly. If they push us, we'll do it, all of it. Even the garden cylinder, that's just rich people's plants. Even that, Elena said, because they need to understand that we're willing to destroy what they value. It's the only language they speak. She looked at the map of the Vesper Ring, now marked with human-controlled sectors. They'd done the impossible, turned an abduction into an invasion, slavery into a beachhead. But the hard part was still ahead. Chen, start preparing that second wave, Elena said. And someone find me Lewis. I need to know if we can actually vent that cylinder, or if I just made a promise I can't keep. On it, Chen said. Elena stared at the map, at the city they'd lost and the station they were taking. No one goes home, she murmured, unless we own the door. And right now, they were very close to owning it. The Ring Council chamber was designed to project authority soaring ceilings, holographic displays showing the station's vast economic networks, seats arranged in a hierarchical spiral that placed the most powerful species at the center. Today it felt like a tomb. Counselor Vresh's skin had gone a sickly gray as she reviewed the human demands. Around her, representatives from a dozen species argued in overlapping frequencies, their translators creating a cacophony of panic. This is extortion. We should deploy military assets. What military assets? This is a trade station, not a fortress. If we give in to these demands, every species in the sector will think they can. Enough! Director Kethar's voice cut through the chaos. He stood at the center of the chamber, his sensory stalks rigid with stress. The humans have made their position clear. We can negotiate or we can watch them tear this station apart. Those are our options. They're bluffing, Counselor Thex insisted, his carapace clicking with agitation. They wouldn't dare. The lights flickered. Every display in the chamber went dark for exactly 3 seconds. When they came back online, a new image dominated the central hologram. A human woman, dark-haired, wearing what appeared to be a military uniform. Behind her, other humans worked at control stations. "Good morning, counselors," Sergeant Elena Kovac said. "I hope I have your attention." Elena had never expected to be conducting interstellar diplomacy from a commandeered data center, but life had gotten strange. "Let me be clear about our situation," she said, looking directly into the camera Jin had rigged. "We are not asking for your permission. We are informing you of the new reality. You attempted to enslave 8,000 human beings. That was your first mistake. Your second was underestimating us." She nodded to Lewis, who was off camera. The holographic display behind her shifted, showing a 3-dimensional map of the Vesper Ring with human-controlled sectors highlighted in red. "We currently control 43% of your power distribution network, 27% of your gravity systems, and we have physical possession of your central transit hub. We are also holding 412 of your citizens unharmed, I should note, as insurance against hostile action." Counselor Vresh's voice came through the speakers. "What do you want?" "I'm glad you asked," Elena said. She pulled up a document Jin had helped her draft, a treaty of sorts, written in both human languages and translated alien script. First, immediate recognition of human autonomy. The city of Port Calais and its inhabitants are no longer property. We are a sovereign entity. "Impossible," someone sputtered. "You have no legal standing." "We have 400 hostages and control of your infrastructure," Elena interrupted. "That's all the legal standing we need. Second, ownership of our current habitat, the dome you placed us in plus adjacent sectors sufficient for expansion. We'll need room to grow." "You want us to give you station territory?" "You stole an entire city," Elena said flatly. "Yes, we want territory. Third, access to your shipyards and the right to construct our own vessels. We're going home eventually and we'll need ships to do it." The council chamber erupted in protests. Elena waited for them to quiet down. "Fourth, monetary compensation. 40 million credits, I believe, was the auction total. We'll take that as a down payment for the illegal abduction and attempted enslavement of 8,000 people." "This is robbery." "No," Elena said, her voice cold. "Robbery is what you tried to do to us. This is restitution. And finally, fifth, a mutual non-aggression pact. You leave us alone, we leave you alone. We'll even be good neighbors, trade, cultural exchange, all that diplomatic nonsense. But if you ever try something like this again..." She nodded to Lewis again. The display shifted to show a luxury habitat cylinder, the garden sector in Sector 12, full of exotic alien plants and expensive estates. "This is a live feed," Elena said. "Lewis, if you would." On the display, a section of the cylinder's outer hull began to iris open. Atmosphere vented in a visible plume, and the carefully cultivated gardens inside began to wither and freeze. "Stop," Vresh's voice was panicked. "Stop, please." Elena raised her hand. Lewis closed the hull breach. The venting stopped. "That was a demonstration," Elena said. "A very expensive one, I imagine, but it proves we can reach your most valuable assets, and we will if you force us to. So here's my final offer. Accept our terms or we start dismantling your station piece by piece until you do. You have 12 hours to decide." She cut the transmission. The command center was silent for a long moment. Then Rook started laughing, a deep, genuine sound. "Holy shit, Sergeant. You just held an entire space station hostage." "We all did," Elena corrected, but she was smiling too. The exhaustion was still there, the fear, the weight of responsibility, but underneath it all was something else. Pride. "Will they accept?" Dr. Singh asked. "They'll accept," Elena said, "because the alternative is economic collapse. They're merchants, not warriors. They'll take the deal." "And if they don't?" Chen asked. Elena's smile faded. "Then we make good on our threats, all of them." The Ring Council's response came in 8 hours, not 12. They accepted every term. The treaty was signed in the same auction chamber where humans had been sold as property. Elena insisted on it, a symbolic reclamation of the space where their enslavement had been planned. She stood across from Counselor Vresh, with Director Kethar and a dozen other alien officials looking on. The treaty document printed on actual paper, because Elena didn't trust digital signatures lay between them. "This is a mistake," Vresh said quietly. "You're setting a dangerous precedent." "Good," Elena said. "Let every slaver in the galaxy know humans are dangerous. We're not prey, we're not property, and if you try to make us either, we'll burn your house down around you." She signed the treaty with a pen she'd carried from Earth, a gift from her grandfather decades ago. Her hand didn't shake. Vresh signed with a manipulator appendage, her skin a mottled gray of resignation. "It's done," Vresh said. "No," Elena corrected, "it's just beginning." 3 weeks later, Elena stood at the edge of what had been the dome and was now the heart of something new. The force field was gone, replaced by proper airlocks and docking ports. The false sky had been replaced with transparent aluminum panels that showed the real stars, still wrong, still alien, but honest about it. And beyond the city limits, construction crews, human and alien both, were building. Shipyards, habitats, infrastructure. A city-state in space. "We need a name," Chen said, standing beside her. "Can't keep calling it Port Calais. That's Earth. This is something else." Elena had been thinking about that. "Freehold Vesper," she said. "Freehold. Free land held by free people," Elena said. "And Vesper, the evening star. The last light before darkness, or the first light of dawn, depending on how you look at it." Chen considered. "Freehold Vesper, I like it." Below them, in what had been the city square, a crowd was gathering. The first general assembly of their new polity. Humans from every background, cops and criminals, doctors and engineers, families and loners coming together to decide their future. "You should speak," Chen said. "I'm not a politician," Elena protested. "No, you're the woman who turned a slave auction into an invasion," Chen said. "They'll listen to you." Elena descended to the square, her boots echoing on the metal decking that had replaced asphalt. The crowd parted for her, and she climbed onto a makeshift stage. "I'm not good at speeches," she began, "so I'll keep this short. 3 weeks ago we were stolen, abducted from our homes and told we were property. A lot of people would have given up, would have accepted it, but we didn't. We fought. We adapted. We turned their own systems against them, and now we're free." Cheers erupted. Elena waited for them to die down. "But freedom isn't the end. It's the beginning. We're not on Earth anymore. We can't go home, not yet, maybe not ever. So we have to build a new home, here, together. And that means making hard choices. It means working with people we didn't like before. It means learning alien technology and alien customs. It means being something humanity has never been before. She paused, looking out at the faces, every color, every age, every background. We're not Americans or Chinese or Nigerians anymore. We're not cops or criminals or civilians. We're freeholders, citizens of Freehold Vesper, and we're going to show this galaxy what humans can do when we work together. More cheers. Elena raised her hand for quiet. I want to end with something I said during the darkest part of this. Something that got us through. No one goes home unless we own the door. Well, we own the door now. We own it, we built it, and we're going to defend it. And if anyone human or alien tries to take it from us, they're going to learn the same lesson the Vesper Ring learned. She looked up at the stars, at the vast station curving overhead, at the ships beginning to take shape in the new shipyards. We're not going anywhere. This is our home now, Freehold Vesper, and we're here to stay. In the weeks and months that followed, word spread across the trade networks. Rumors at first, then confirmed reports, then warnings. A human city had been abducted for slavery. The humans had turned the abduction into an invasion. They'd seized control of the Vesper Ring's infrastructure and held it hostage until their demands were met. They'd forced one of the sector's major trade hubs to recognize them as a sovereign power. And they'd done it all in less than a week. The rumors grew with each telling. Some species dismissed them as exaggeration. Others began to study humans with new interest as potential allies or potential threats. But among the slavers, the raiders, the species that preyed on the weak, a new rule emerged, unwritten but universally understood. Don't touch the humans. They're more trouble than they're worth. Elena stood in her office, a converted storage room in what had been City Hall and was now the administrative center of Freehold Vesper. Maps covered the walls, showing the expanding territory of their new home, trade agreements with neighboring species, ship construction schedules, population growth projections. Her radio crackled. Kovac, this is Jin. We've got something on long-range sensors. Looks like a probe. Alien design, but not from any species we've encountered. Hostile? Don't think so. It's broadcasting a message. Universal greeting protocols. They want to talk. Elena smiled. Then let's talk, but Jin, make sure our defenses are ready just in case. Always. Elena looked out the window at her city, her impossible, beautiful, defiant city, hanging in the void between stars. They'd been stolen from Earth, sold as slaves, written off as primitive. And they'd turned it all into freedom. No one goes home, she murmured, unless we own the door. They own the door now. And they were never letting go. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, consider subscribing for more journeys. Share your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for the next adventure.